Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to more Gaming Misconceptions. Last time, we talked about a few topics of differing degrees, including Steam Decade and Nintendo's part of the Pokemon Company. This portion, however, will be split into two concise chapters that consist of multiple parts and are based off one another. Today we are going to delve into the truth of game development when it comes to the hard-hitting question, why is Unreal Engine so popular, and if that should really be considered a negative? Anyway, sorry to keep you waiting. Please enjoy. Developed in May 1988 by Epic Games founder Tim Sweeney, the first game on Unreal Engine was a first-person shooter for a game that was quite literally titled Unreal, published by Atari for Windows and Mac OS. But that's not what you're here for. So, launching in March 2014, Unreal Engine 4 is your be-all end-all stop for all your game-making needs. Being able to run on literally any console under the sun, yes, even macOS. Most developers saw this and started screaming hallelujah to the fact that they no longer needed to make their own engines or use weaker ones to start developing their super realistic gritty space shooter or their long-awaited sequel to their favorite JRPG franchise. How naive we were back then. Regardless of what you think, there's a lot of good that comes from an ease-of-use engine like UE, and especially in its fourth iteration. As a Square Enix fan, we couldn't live without it, and we can clearly see with both Atlas and 343's commitment to building many other future games on UE going forward. It's no wonder that people might feel drained of seeing so many similar assets or dealing with several of the engine's overall faults, like lighting and performance. Although to say that gaming studios and companies should go back to making their own engine is not fair to say without a bit of insight. Let us go back to when Square Enix decided to invest and try and make their own engine. Circa 2011, as a successor to the original Crystal Tools engine Square Enix used for most of their HD games in the late 2000s, they shortly came to a realization that they needed to update or create a stronger engine from struggling on games such as Final Fantasy XIII sequel and the original Final Fantasy XIV. With that being said, they wanted something more extreme than just a basic engine used for only one type of game, but moreover their own version of UE, or Unity engine. With the help from their CGI movie and animation division, they desired their own big budget in-house be-all and all development engine that could fire on all cylinders and make the most efficient and beautiful multi-source engine with emphasis on real-time graphics and close to CGI animation rendered gameplay for games such as Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy XV. Now with that being said, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Number 1. Square Enix started developing the engine in 2012. Number 2. Both Final Fantasy XV and Kingdom Hearts 3 started development in the mid-2000s. Number 3. Both games did not see a release date until the mid to late 2010s. They were in the middle of developing a highly expensive and overly excessive engine whilst they were shifting these games from Crystal Tools over to Luminous Engine. Number 5. Both games were to be more open than their predecessors' linear style over substance. Number 6. Final Fantasy XV came out in 2016 on Luminous Engine, and number 7. Kingdom Hearts 3 came out at the start of 2019 on Unreal Engine 4. So it's clear to see that some of the issues that come with creating your own engine is that if you are choosing to start developing games on an experimental engine in its infancy, it's rough. Sometimes it does help because game devs can ask the engine devs to add stuff to make their game run smoothly or ask fix changes. But for the most part, it's not the most ideal. That's not even taking into consideration the fact that the Final Fantasy VII Remake could have been starting development on Crystal Tools when it was being assisted by CyberConnect 2. The game developers are not even a part of Square Enix, therefore they'd be completely amiss to the tools they'd be using. They Thankfully, instead, Square Enix realized that making another game for a somewhat incomplete set of tools would not be smart and licensed Unreal Engine 4 to start development in 2015, with the first trailer coming out in the same year. Nowadays, most of Square Enix games are developed and released on UE. But let's say you're not a big JRPG fan and you're more interested in guns and space and a green protagonist. Released in 2021, Halo Infinite was finally allowed to breathe and see the light of day to critical acclaim like why is it an open world game? Okay, I know that most people really enjoyed it from all standpoints, but if we are comparing how long it took to come out compared to everyone's consensus, I can assure you that this game deserves the IGN 7 out of 10 for the campaign. However, I will acknowledge a lot of people really don't care for Halo's campaigns since Halo Reach, and are more focused on the hip, fun multiplayer. I mean, how could you not enjoy riding into battle with your squad on a massive vehicle listening to the most atmospheric OSTs in the FPS genre as your tire gets shot and causes your vehicle to hit a bump and fly across the map? Nostalgia. With that being said, now we have to talk about why this is a portion I decided to focus on. Well, for starters, instead of using the same blam engine that 343 and Bungie have been using since Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 1 for those uncultured, 343 decided fuck it, and in 2015 they proceeded to develop a new engine with remnants of what Bungie left them with the blam engine. The Slipspace engine finished development in 2018 and has never been used since Halo Infinite. Now you might be thinking that something more linear and focused like Halo would be easy to develop an engine for, but you forget at this time there was a big boom of Batman Arkham Knight, Fallout 4, Insomniac Spider-Man, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 15, and of course, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, with that being said, with a series that's known for expansive, linear, and beautiful environments, it's not really a surprise they chose to do one thing to bring an end to their Reclaimer saga that they started with Halo 4 and ended with Infinite. We need Halo to inflate. For the sake that I don't know much about Halo Infinite's development, I will just let this quote from an article with one of Halo's devs on Xbox Wire on why they decided to drop the engine after one game and make the switch to Unreal Engine 5 sum it up for you. Quote, "The way that we made Halo games before doesn't necessarily work as well for the way we want to make games for the future. So part of the conversation we had was how we can help the team focus on making games versus making tools and the engine. Respectfully, some of the components of Slipspace Engine are almost 25 years old. Although 343 were developing it continuously, there are aspects of Unreal that Epic has been developing for some time which are unavailable to us in Slipspace and would have taken a huge amount of time and resources to try and replicate. I think it's safe to say that we are beyond the need for companies and studios to make their own game engines, and that it is better for game development if developers get a license to use UE. Although there is another side to this coin that I feel like people see these rare occurrences and say, hey, why doesn't my studio do that? Of course I'm talking about Since this topic is much more opinion-based, I feel like it is fair to do an extended take into why sometimes it is good to make your own development tools. In this chapter, we will be talking briefly about Nintendo's insistence on proprietary engines, Retro Studios' own Root engine, Capcom's RE engine, and for my sake, Sonic Team's Hedgehog engine. So without further ado, so I'll just start off and say we really don't know that much about Nintendo's proprietary engines other than it seems the Nintendoware bezel engine. That's main features include a built-in shader system based in physical-based rendering, basically real-world type lighting.
Post effects, 3D physics engine using NVIDIA's PhysX system, 2D physics engine using Box2D or Liquid Fun, scripting with Lua, and a dedicated scripting debugger, a networking system with Nintendo's peer-to-peer PIA network system, or NEX, Nintendo Switch system feature support, including HDR and IR camera, and a complete asset building system,
which is used for the following games.
Super Mario Party, Tetris 99, Dr. Yawashima's Brain Training for Nintendo Switch, Clubhouse Games 51, Worldwide Classics, Super Mario Bros. 35, WarioWare Get It Together, Mario Party Superstars, Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain, Everybody 1-2 Switch, WarioWare Move It, Endless Ocean Luminous, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour.
So you get the gist. I will say, from my lovely girlfriend's perspective, this is very accurate and makes sense. Quote,
they all have this cohesive design in the UI elements, the boxes, the title screens, how the games themselves present themselves. They all feel incredibly Nintendo and alike one another, and it feels like they all share this design philosophy of accessibility, ease of access, and simplicity. It just has that Nintendo feel.
But besides that, we have massive games like Super Mario Odyssey and Donkey Kong Bonanza that are made by the same development team and possibly built on the same engine. Then we have smaller games that are absolutely using the same tools like Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, and Echoes of Wisdom. I've heard people assume it is possible Nintendo used some advanced version of UE or Unity to make the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But all that theory has going for it is the fact that despite its delays, the turnaround date on a game like this at the time is unprecedented. What I will say though is that Nintendo as a whole doesn't always follow this format and will occasionally make a deal with the devil to build their own lower end titles, including Yoshi's Crafted World and Pikmin 4 on Unreal Engine 4, or that one time they used Unity for Super Mario Run. Not to say it won't happen more in the future, but Nintendo is a company that invests more into their tools than licenses. Like one of their subsidiaries. Based in Austin, Texas, Retro Studios was founded in late 1988 by a partnership between Nintendo and Jeff Spangenberg from Iguana Entertainment, NFL Games at the time, and Turok, to start work on a new type of Metroid game that Nintendo felt would bring the series to new heights that they themselves could not achieve. They wanted to make Metroid a first-person game. From the running and gunning aspects of a 2D side-scrolling Metroid to now a fully 3D first-person adventure game, this game and all other games are made under one highly capable and fulfilling engine they invested into till this very day, the RUDE engine, which stands for Retro Universal Design Engine. Even when they finally were given the reins to their own 2D platformer, Donkey Kong Country Returns, they decided to stick to their roots and use the engine they designed for the Metroid Prime trilogy, even if it was their first foray into a platformer duology. Even to this day, Metroid Prime 4 and beyond, you can bet that Retro will stick to their guns and stay rude. Originally in development for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, in 2014, Capcom's first division started working on a new engine to replace the current one they were using, MT Framework. Focused on linear experiences like the Baker Residence in RE7 and the combat hallways of Devil May Cry 5, the point of the new engine, the Reach for the Moon engine, was to focus on quality over quantity and an investment in graphics and environmental design. Whilst this engine is only meant for these reasons, Capcom doesn't use any other engine to make any of their games at this point after RE7's success. They realized this engine could do anything with a plethora of caveats. As of right now though, other than the Decima engine Guerrilla Games uses for the Horizon series, the RE engine does an amazing job at what it is designed for. environmental detail, and amazing fidelity. Very much a high-end engine that got turned into a multi-use engine, and as of right now is still in use and is able to take advantage of AI upscaling and ray tracing like no other. Whoops! Didn't mean to bring out the nerdy technical mumbo jumbo. Teehee. All you need to know is that it is a great multi-purpose engine that looks very pretty. For some recent examples, you can look no further than the most recent Resident Evil Requiem and Capcom's newest IP, Pragmata, where RE9 succeeds in the first part of the campaign with the main character Grace Ashcroft trying to escape a hospital science lab hybrid reminiscent to the Raccoon City Police Department in Resident Evil 2. Leon Kennedy's campaign suffers from being an empty open city that has some atmospheric interiors but leaves much to be desired when it comes to the whole scenario. It does not help that in a comparison to the linear section they are able to control lighting and colors a bit more. Meanwhile, in an open Raccoon City you have to use a central lighting choice. That's not an engine problem though, just a weird design choice. Anyway, can we talk about Pragmata?
You just gonna stay here when this is all done? What do you want?
I want to go to Earth.
The game that was shown in a 2021 PlayStation State of Play with a projected release year of 2022 and then ended up releasing in 2026 and sold 2 million units in the first 3 weeks. I could gush about this game, easy game of the year contender, but rather than that, let's talk about the polish and the game design philosophy of this game. Number 1, it is linear and level based. Number 2, it has great environmental design that focuses on realism while not shying away from more colorful detailing. Number 3, every area is based off a new environment but still keeps a strong and subtle core design focus which is held up till the very end. Number 4, whilst using open zones in only a few levels, Pragmata is able to feel ever-changing and refreshing rather than always keeping you to the linear hallway designs found in the DMC series. Number 5, instead of using central lighting source, they are always able to control the way the rays are hitting off the environment and characters as they use skyboxes and artificial lighting. To top it off, it has the replayability of a Mega Man game and takes a lot of design details from Software's more linear titles like Bloodborne and older Dark Souls. If you want to see my full playthrough plus review, it'll be linked in the description or the end card will take you there after the video. So please enjoy a Sonic fangirl's incessant ramblings of her favorite series' current proprietary engine. What is there to really say about the Hedgehog engine that hasn't been said before and has not been deeply researched to hell and back about? Originally made for the same purpose as the Luminous engine made by Square Enix, the Hedgehog engine was designed to make near CGI rendered gameplay. The way they did this was all in the lighting. At the time of its development, Sonic Team was not very in-depth in information about lighting techniques such as ray tracing, radiosity, and photon mapping. So instead they did something else to help with their global illumination scaling. They tried using light models that would emit particles of light that would travel between objects where some of the particles would get absorbed but the others would get re-emitted and bounce off the object the particles hit. Unfortunately, this led to too many issues about performance and accuracy. So they had to scrap the idea and instead tried to use rays that were attached to microfacets based on textiles that could be placed anywhere, but were used to shine onto the course in Sonic's model. These were split into 3 different light sources: directional, point, and sky. When one of these light sources did not line up with the rest, they would have to make that light source weaker with the pre-computed algorithm to connect it to the other light rays and be controlled as a master component. Once they were able to figure out the master component, they were able to change all the lighting at once and created the global illumination tracer. Since they had real and proper lighting, The artists were asked not to put any shadow into their models and instead use raw materials, as the global illumination tracer would add lights and shadows for them. Of course, with such a big part of the job done, production time substantially decreased, as they were able to just make levels at a rudimentary level and the lighting would be solved for them. Of course, with such a big part of the job done, production time substantially decreased, as they were able to just make levels at a rudimentary level and the lighting would be solved for them. Although there were some issues with some lower poly models lacking visibility, artists created the MI tracer, or the micro illumination tracer, to add their own high quality shadows that matched the overall lighting design. Over time, there were a lot more lighting challenges that had to be accommodated, but as you can see in games like Sonic Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, at the end of the day, it was worth it. Nowadays, they've moved on to Hedgehog Engine 2, which has been used for games such as Sonic Forces, Superstars, and Sonic Frontiers, an updated engine that focuses on better lighting and shadows with the addition of physical-based rendering. And for what it's worth, I think it was worth it.